247 Sports Director of Recruiting Steve Wiltfong here with 247 Sports National Recruiting Editor Brandon Huffman. It's another rankings update for us. This time it's the top 247 in the 2023 cycle. And I'm going to just start at the top with Lebius Lt Overton. He's been our number one since we debuted this class, and he remains number one. And the blue chipper from Alpharetta Milton has scheduled a few visits here in June as the NCAA dead period finally lifts on June 1, and prospects will be able to hit the road. Lt Overton gets out there pretty quickly. He's going to make that short drive over to Georgia. He's got a long-standing relationship with Kirby Smart and Scott Cochran going back to their days at Alabama. Overton's parents both used to work at Alabama. His mom, obviously on the academic side. His father, who's now the athletic director at Kennesaw State, worked in a capacity at Alabama in that regard. But he's going to get over to Alabama, or get over to Georgia, and hang out with those guys again for the first time in a long time. He's done a lot of Zooms and talks with the University of Georgia, and they're coming as hard as anybody to keep him home. On the 5th, he's going to go back to Alabama and check out the Crimson Tide. There's pictures of him floating around on the internet of Alabama and Nick Saban's first national title in Tuscaloosa. He was there. Obviously was a fan of Alabama, and has tremendous respect for that program, and they're certainly incredibly high on his list. From there, he's going to go to Oklahoma and their barbecue on June 19th. His father played at Oklahoma. He's done some Zooms with the staff and loves the OU staff. And then Texas A&M on June 21. His parents both worked at A&M. He was born in College Station. They're excited to see the changes. There's been a lot of changes on that campus and with those football facilities, but Texas A&M has been recruiting him as hard as anybody, and he's going to get back there. Clemson's going to get a visit in late July. Those schools, along with Ohio State, were the programs that Lt Overton mentioned were coming out in the hardest in the spring. But Michigan, Notre Dame, USC, Oregon, those are places they want to get out to at some point as well. Arch Manning remains our number one quarterback, Brandon, and he's going to take some visits in June as well. And that itinerary begins with a visit to Clemson on June 8th and 9th for camp. His brother Hyde Manning is also going to do the camp with him. Hyde is a center, Isidore Newman in New Orleans, so eventually Hyde will be snapping the ball to Arch Manning. He's going to go to the Lone Star State the week after that and check out SMU and Texas. He's going to go to Alabama the weekend of June 19th, and then he's going to wrap up his June plans with a trip to Georgia too. So Arch and Lt Overton seeing a couple of the same schools this summer. Brandon, as we update these rankings, it seems like we're back in California at the quarterback position after a couple of years where they didn't have an elite guy in 2021 or 2022. 3 elite guys in 2023.
Yeah, you look at the 2020 class, the top 2 players in the country that year, according to 247 Sports, were Bryce Young at number 1, DJ Uiagalelei at number 2, played against each other in high school. They were in the same league, played against each other 4 times over their junior and senior year, and then again against each other in the All-American Bowl. So a good little rivalry, but 2 guys that weren't separated by a lot of miles. This year, you've got the number 1 quarterback in California, who's the number 2 pro style nationally, Malachi Nelson. Creeping up and trending up, much like Bryce Young did a couple of years ago, is Nico Iamaleava out of Warren High School in Downey. Interestingly enough, the coach that he plays for at Warren High School, Kevin Pearson, was the coach for Bryce Young his first 2 years at Cathedral. So DJ was a known name, even though Bryce Young started before him. Malachi Nelson's been the known name. He started as a freshman. Nico left Long Beach Poly for Warren High School and has just continued to trend up. He was named to the Future 50 2 weeks ago at the Southern California Underclassmen Report Camp. This past weekend at the Polynesian Bowl Combine and Showcase, he was named the overall skills MVP and was also selected as one of the first 4 selections to the 2023 Polynesian Bowl. He's 6'6", a guy that just continues to be compared to DJ. They're both 2 sports stars. Now, the difference between him and DJ had probably another 30, 40 pounds on him at the same stage, but DJ was also a baseball player. Nico's also one of the top volleyball players in California, which is really one of the great states for volleyball. But talking to him this weekend, he knows that volleyball is going to probably end after high school when he gets to college. And then a few spots behind him, Nico actually passed him up in the top 100. But this guy remains the #1 dual threat quarterback, Jaden Rashad out of Pittsburgh High School in the Bay Area, from the East Bay, Oakland, a region in the country and a region in California. Had 4 of the first 5 players drafted out of the state of California in the 2021 NFL draft were from Oakland in that same area. Antioch High School, Najee Harris. You had Bishop O'Dowd. That's where Jaden Rashad is from. His dad played at Arizona State. So some great bloodlines there. This is starting to take on a similar feel to the 2020 class where you had Bryce and DJ, and then CJ Stroud, who was no slouch himself, kind of a little bit behind those two guys. You've got Malachi, you've got Nico at 1 and 2, but you've got Jaden, who's #1 at dual threat and starting to get more attention himself. I think we're seeing a return to what the West Coast has been known for, and especially what California's been known for, and that's better quarterbacks after a couple of more lean years.
Brandon, Nico Iamaleava is the biggest riser in this top 247, going from 77 to number 22. Malachi Nelson sitting pretty at number 5. No action there, but there is some action coming up on with his recruitment. He has a decision date for July. Oklahoma has the heavy trend on the 24/7 Sports crystal ball, so it looks like Lincoln Riley's in position to go. Caleb Williams, the #1 overall quarterback in the class in the 2021 cycle, and then Spencer Rattler 2 years prior to that, #1 overall, and then Malachi Nelson, who is his top target here in 2023 to get his top guy in succession 19, 21, and 23. And there's nobody recruiting the quarterback position better than Lincoln Riley and company. Nico Iamaleava, tell me who the main players are for him.
Well, you were talking about Arch Manning and some of the camps that he's going to be at. Well, Nico will be at one of those same camps too, and that's at Clemson in June. He's thrown at Ohio State in early June, as well as visiting Alabama for a camp on June 7th. Georgia has already offered him. He'll be taking an unofficial visit there. But the big, as he called it this last weekend, there's the big 4 visits he's got coming up, which is Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, and Alabama. Tennessee offered last week. That was kind of one of his newer offers. He said he was intrigued by it, but the reality is the 2 Los Angeles schools, USC and UCLA, have been really present in his recruitment, yet he's starting to gain a lot of national attention. And again, we made the comparison to DJ early on. Most people thought DJ was going to stay in the Southland, thought he might be at USC. USC decided to go with Bryce Young and ended up not really recruiting DJ, who picked Clemson. Now you look at Nico, and his recruitment has been kind of affected by Malachi Nelson, where it looked like Malachi Nelson was going to be the only target USC went after. Then they offered Nico.
Nico was too good not to offer also, man.
Exactly. And because they learned their lesson 2 years ago with Bryce and DJ and then missing out on both, they pivoted to offer Nico. Well, that kind of may have been what pushed Malachi once and for all to Oklahoma. So USC is now hoping, hey, if we're out of it for Malachi, maybe we can get Nico since we missed on DJ. UCLA had offered him first. He's the only 2023 player, period, that they've offered. Not the only 2023 quarterback, the only 2023 player in the country that UCLA has offered. His uncle is Johnny Nansen, who's on the Bruins staff. But you look at the 6 schools that he's really focusing on, the 4 that he's trying to visit in June. 3 of them haven't offered yet, but they could. Plus SC, UCLA might be doing everything they can to get him, but there's some big programs that are really in the midst for him. And I think that trip down south could really be a big step in the direction for Nico leaving the West Coast for college.
Our colleague Greg Biggins has more on California's 3 quarterbacks and the state bouncing back under center with some elite guys. I might take these 3 guys over all the upper echelon guys in 2021 and 2022 right now. Brandon, Jaden Rashad, recently offered by Washington. What's the pulse of that recruitment?
Well, his recruitment is going to be very fascinating too, because with Washington, they've got the #2 dual threat in the country in their backyard in Jabari Johnson, but they offered Jaden Rashad. Now he's got, again, a lot of players on that program that played either with him at Pitt or with him at De La Salle or against him, or grew up in the same area, grew up in the same leagues. A number of those players, Giles Jackson, who's just transferred in from Michigan, another player that Jaden's very familiar with, played in the same 7-on program with a lot of those guys with KT Prep. The other school to keep an eye on with Jaden, though, is Arizona State. Jaden Daniels will be a junior this year, most likely going to go to the NFL after this year, but maybe he comes back. That opens the door perfectly for Jaden Rashad in 2023. And the reason the Sun Devils are a significant factor, his father Harlan played for Arizona State. They were one of his early offers and a program that he was very high on from the get-go with the family ties. He's been watching him. Cal was the first Pac-12 school to offer. They're right there in his backyard. Obviously, Bill Musgrave has extended NFL circumstances. And then another little wild card that I'll throw in there is the University of Arizona. And you wonder, why does Arizona, how do they have a chance? Well, their director of high school recruiting is a guy named Ryan Partridge. What is he known for? He was the head coach at Liberty High School in Brentwood when Jaden Rashad was a freshman. Before Partridge left to take a college job in Michigan, Jaden Rashad backed up Jay Butterfield, who is now at Oregon. Jaden Rashad would have played for Partridge. When Partridge left, he transferred to IMG, ended up moving back to California. Arizona, though, jumped on him. So there's some familiarity there. He's a very big fan of Coach Partridge. So Arizona will depend on how they do these next couple of years with Jed Fish, with Jimmy Doherty coaching the quarterbacks. But maybe a little tiny wild card for the Wildcats. I think if he were to go to the desert, it's more likely to his dad's alma mater. But this Washington offer was one that seriously intrigued him. And I think as he continues to be the starter moving forward at Pitt, you're going to see plenty of national offers, maybe for schools that don't get Arch or Malachi Nelson or Nico, really start to make a push for Jaden.
Jed Fish recently told me that Arizona, Tucson is the best place to throw the football in the world, or something close to that. So he's Brandon Huffman. I'm Steve Wiltfong. For more on the top 247 in the 2023 cycle and anything recruiting related in general, stay locked on 247 Sports.